found ourselves in a very dark little void. I was trapped for a total of 13 hours. And at that point, I determined that if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna fight till the end. On September 11th, I started my day off like every day. I'd kiss Allison goodbye. She was 7 months pregnant. I went into the next bedroom, kissed my 4-year-old daughter, and I'd get in my truck and drive from New Jersey into Midtown Manhattan. I was a Port Authority police officer from the Port Authority Police of New York and New Jersey. Our radios crackled, asking us to come back to the police desk. And that's when I saw Tower 1 on fire. You know, there were papers flying throughout the air. There was a lot of dust. There was a lot of debris. Building 1 had the big gaping hole with smoke coming out of it. Sergeant McLoughlin had asked for volunteers. Myself, Dominic Pizzullo, Antonio Rodriguez volunteered, and we started running toward the buildings. We got into Building 5, I would say approximately 9:30, maybe a little bit after that. When we heard the humongous boom, I turned around and looked into lobby 2. I didn't know what to do. I was just standing there. It was like an earthquake. Everything was shaking. Sergeant McLoughlin, he said, run toward the elevator shaft. And the building was actually coming down, and I found myself literally buried alive under concrete. It was dark, and then after a little bit, I could see some light start coming in from above me. About 20 to 30 feet up, there was a hole. I yelled out to my Sarge with some colorful words, we're gonna make it out of this hellhole. If not, we're gonna die trying. Because at that point I realized if I had given up, I would have given up on my sergeant because nobody could hear him. I would have given up on my family because I didn't fight hard enough to get home. And at that point I determined that if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna fight till the end. So this is my ID and my actual shield that I was wearing on 9/11. So I was buried with both of these. They both survived, and luckily I was able to get them back after the attacks. The physical recovery was tough. The physical challenge I face is just more being able to do things that I used to do that I can't do anymore. You know, I have a disability, I have a challenge, and I just have to work around it. The mental recovery was tough. I didn't know that I was suffering from PTSD right after 9/11. It wasn't an easy road. I had to talk to several different people, but finally ended up with a therapist that I felt comfortable with, and one that taught me that you're never gonna get rid of PTSD, but you can learn to live with it, you can learn to control it. Come on, baby. Unfortunately, I had to retire as a police officer. I didn't want to, and it's something that took a big blow to my dream of becoming a police officer. In 2003, a friend of mine asked me to come to speak to a school of 3rd and 4th graders who were afraid to get on planes. The day that you feel you can't overcome something, think about that guy that came to talk and say, listen, if he made it, why can't I? And then other people would keep calling me to different events, and those events led to, again, a purpose. For the last several years, children and parents and educators kept saying, you should have a kid's book. In 2020, I hooked up with my co-author, Charles Ricciardi. We gave it a go, and the book, Immigrant American Survivor, came to fruition. I'm very proud of it. You know, it's important for me to share my story because I have found people that have been inspired by it. When I look at this uniform, I think about the good people that I was able to, you know, be alongside of, and the positive impact we had on September 11th. I think my life mission has always been to help people. The phrase "never give up" means everything to me because I had to dig down deep when I was buried alive under the Trade Center, and that helped me get out and get to my family and get back home. And I'm here 20 years later to tell everybody, never give up. I don't care what's going on in your life, just don't give up.